Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to R Square Technology. I'm your host Ryan, and let's get ready to SolidWorks. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you're making it through the week okay. We're halfway there as usual. And this video will be the conclusion to modeling the remaining parts for this Paul mechanism assembly, courtesy of 3D Design Work. Their Instagram handle will be in the description below. Check them out. You'll be able to find these parts to try modeling it yourself if you want. And of course, I have my Instagram handle. Check my page out as well. Give me a follow. Much appreciated. So with that, let's dive into these last two parts. They're going to be fairly simple. So I will show you two ways how to do the second part, which is going to be the pin. And then next Wednesday, we'll wrap it all up with probably a little bit longer than normal video where we'll create an assembly / a drawing from it. So, stay tuned for that coming next Wednesday, but in the meantime, let's get going with these two parts. Alright, so we're going to start out with the much simpler part, the base, which is simply a glorified rectangle. And to do this, we are not going to choose the front plane like we have for every other part. In fact, we're going to choose the top plane. Again, you can choose any plane you want, top, front, right. Technically the left is the back side of the right, and the bottom is, well, the bottom of the top plane. So really you operate off of those three main planes, as seen over here in the feature tree. They do kind of the same thing. It's once you start building a part that the bottom and the left side technically have more of a defined point to them, if you will. So, top plane to start. We're going to come up here into the Sketch tab, and we're going to choose a center rectangle. And then from here, we're going to choose the origin with our number 2 pencil. Hover over the origin, click and drag out. Size doesn't matter because we're going to change that based on the dimensions in the drawing. Now, one thing, we're in inch/pound/second right now, and all these drawings are in millimeter, so we're going to come up here to our options, and we're going to go to our document properties. We're going to choose units, and then this little radio button here, we're going to choose millimeter grams second, and we're going to click OK. Now, SolidWorks has this prompt set up for me to say, hey, you haven't saved this document in 20 minutes. It's because I've had the blank document open while getting things set up. But it's a good thing to have that reminder there, but as always, save your part in the beginning and then Control S to save often. So one thing you'll have noticed too is that once I change the units, it takes you out of that sketch. So we just need to go back into the edit mode for that. So we can come over here into our feature tree, we can right click and edit sketch. That brings us back in. And now we can fully define our sketch using Smart Dimensions up here on the left. And this is going to have a length or width. We'll call this the length for all intents and purposes of 80 mils. Our width is 50. And then finally, that's fully defined. So now we'll just do the final part, which is extruding it. We'll come over here into the Features tab. And we'll choose Extrude Boss Base. And for this one, I'll actually leave it as a blind end condition. And its thickness is 10 mils, which seems to be its default. So 10 mil there, we're all good. So we can click OK. Control S. And then from here, we can right click and we can choose a color. It doesn't actually specify materials for these parts, but they all do have different colors, which will make them kind of easier to see visually, that is, in the assembly of things. So they use kind of some light blue that looks something like that. Not exact, but that's okay. We already have the spur gear wheel, which is kind of bluish, so why don't we just choose something, I don't know. How about yellow? Oh, we have something like that too. Ah, something semi-orange. Pumpkin spice, as they say. Alright, so that concludes the base. And it's so jagged. So we're going to add one little flare to it that this doesn't have. Just the top section will do 1mm size fillets. I'm going to just select this top edge and these four corners here. Taking liberties, taking it a step further. And we'll click OK. And I'll hit the space bar, bring it back into an isometric, and hit Control S. Now keep in mind in the assembly, this could potentially influence how things get assembled together, but we're going to work off of planes for the most part to make it simple. Hence why I always choose the center of this part for the origin. So, with that, we'll close out, and I already have the pin ready to go. So, again, Control S, save it as pin R1, however you want to do it. Whatever name makes sense to you. And then from here, now this one, we're actually going to choose, let's see, the front plane for this one. So again, I'm going to draw this two different ways. So to start, let's do the more complicated way. We're going to choose a right plane and bring that normal to. And we're going to choose a sketch. And we're going to choose a midpoint line. What? And we're going to make the midpoint of that midpoint line coincident to the origin. And then we want a horizontal relation. Click drag out. Length doesn't matter. And we're going to right click, choose select. Then we'll right click on the line, and over here, construction geometry, we want to make sure it's turned to a construction line. You can also click on the line, come over to the properties, and you can select for it to be construction or unselect it to be a regular line. We want this to be construction because this is going to be an axis of revolution. Then from here, we're going to take one line and we're going to go this way, and then we're going to do this and this, and I'm going to stop halfway. Now from here, we're going to make this top dimension. Notice something here, we're going to double it up. The diameter of this is going to be 15 mils. And then from here, what this needs to be, oops, close out, grab the smart dimension again. This is 1 mil. And then this here, we're going to make an angular. We'll go this way, 45. We're making a chamfer this way. Now it's finally, we can make our overall part dimension based on this axis at 55 mils. That's going to fully define things to a degree. Now what I want to do here is mirror this. However, this is what's going to happen, is if I choose to add another center line, and this one doesn't have to be fully defined, it just needs to have a vertical relation and a coincident relation here. I can then mirror all these entities here and choose this. And now what's going to happen is when I go into a revolve feature, we have two axis options, so it's not going to automatically select it, which is fine, but I decided I wanted to mirror this geometry here so I don't have to dimension it twice. There's a couple of different ways you could approach that, but this is definitely one way to do it. Another way I could do it is I could have drawn all of the geometry as one dimension, one side, and then used relations to make things the same. But I chose to do mirror. So from here, we're going to go to the Features tab. We're going to choose Revolve Boss Base. Now notice it's saying, hey, this isn't closed. So I'm going to say no. And I'm actually going to close out of this for a moment, and we'll close it ourselves. So while this was originally a center line, and I thought, okay, I'll just originally use that as an axis of revolution, we still can do so. But we're actually going to right click and turn it back to a regular line, and now we'll do our Revolve Boss Base, and we'll still choose that as the center of revolution. 360 degrees, click OK, and I'll hit the space bar to bring it back isometric, and hit Control S. And that's one way to make this pin. So the other way, in this particular case, is a little bit more simplified. If we had a more advanced profile, it would make sense to do it that way, but this one's kind of simple, so we'll actually do it a different method. So what I'm actually going to do is just, in this particular case, I'm going to actually suppress this entire situation. And over here in the feature tree, I'm going to show you a unique trick. This bar here, you can roll back to previous features, which will then suppress them. So now what we're going to do is actually choose the front plane, Control 8 to bring it normal to, and then I'm going to come back over into my Sketch tab. I'm going to choose the circle. I'm going to make the origin the center point of the circle, click and drag out. Size, we're going to give it a dimension. We're going to give it the smart dimension of 15 mils. And then from here, this is where this is going to be a better and simpler choice. This is kind of pointing out to you, again, how you may approach modeling a part depending on the type of control you need and dimension predictable change capabilities you need. So from here, we'll simply go over and do our Features tab. We're going to choose Extrude Boss Base, but this time we're going to do an end condition of midplane. And then, now I'm just now noticing something. By suppressing that feature, oh, I stand corrected. We've actually been doing this drawing with the incorrect dimensions. So, come up here to Options. I forgot to save this with these unit selections. So, Document Properties, Units, switch to millimeter grams second, click OK, which means everything is about to change dramatically. So, first, right click, and I'm going to suppress sketch number 2. I'm going to bring my revolve and unsuppress it. And we're going to see that everything is going to be wrong in this sketch. So, switch this to 1 mil, switch this to 15 mil, switch this to 55 mil, click OK. Notice how it got a lot smaller and everything. And then from here, spacebar to bring it isometric, exit the sketch, and then I'll spacebar isometric again to bring it back in. Yep, looks good. Alright, so now that we've corrected that and made it this way, it's a lot smaller than it originally was, because I was in inches. Now we can right click, resuppress this, and we'll go back to the other method, unsuppress this, of drawing it. So in the sketch we'll edit, and we'll spacebar, or in this case I'll just do Control 8 to bring it normal to. This is a massive diameter. We need to reduce this to 15 mils. Drag this back up. There we go. Now we'll go back over to our features. We'll do the Boss Extruded Base, 55 mils, and it's going to be a mid-plane end condition here. Click OK. Spacebar to bring it isometric. And now from here, we're simply going to go up here under the Features tab, and under the Fillet, choose Drop Down, choose a chamfer. It's going to be a 1 mil chamfer, 45 degree. Then we can select these two edges here. And just like that, we've also made the pin this way. And if I unsuppress this, let's see what we got going on here. Something is wrong in sketch 1. I think that's a radius. Radius of 15. Divided by 2. There we go. Now they'll match up. And now you'll notice they're the exact same. So if I suppress this, the pin's still there. If I unsuppress this and press Control and select these two and suppress them, the pin, oops, it did. Well, what I would have to do is bring this in front of, if it's going to let it, it won't in this case. So in this case, it's kind of just a demonstration of showing two things going on in one drawing. But normally, you pick one style or the other. To have the exact same model two different ways in the drawing is redundant and would cause undesired results if you wanted to change something. So, in this case, I'll keep the more complex way I did it. Oops, we went too far. Boss extrude, delete this. Sketch 1, sketch 2, let me hide these. Delete this, yes. It's taken away that revolve feature. So, I will bring it back. There we go, and then we'll add a color to this. And let's make this one like light green. I don't think they have that because I've already made the other part some kind of pumpkin spice color. So that is it for the remaining parts for the Paul mechanism. Again, next Wednesday we will assemble all of these items together and then throw together a little cut sheet drawing just labeling the parts. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.